Thank God LCS Finals is not going to be in studio for summer. It is going to be in the YouTube Theater out in the SoFi Stadium area of Los Angeles. Now, I know there's going to be some people that are like, oh, but LA, trust me, I know, I feel that. But this is not a venue to scoff at. Like, regardless of the location, let's talk about this. Real quick though, we are on our way to 3,000 subscribers. If you haven't done so already, be sure to click the button down below, drop a like, and I will see you on one of 4 videos I try to drop each and every week around the LCS. So as of the time of recording this, I'm currently under embargo. Obviously, the date that you're seeing here up at the top will be whenever you all get to see this information as well, but that's why I can make a video preemptively and have this ready to go when the time comes. So the LCS Championship is coming to the YouTube Theater in September. Riot Games has announced the venue for the highly anticipated LCS Finals for the first time. It will take place in the LA at the YouTube Theater on September 6th and 7th. Now, this is a very important note, purely because when you look at the calendar, the 6th and the 7th is a Friday and Saturday, and there were a lot of worries about whether we would have the semifinals or like the losers finals in studio rather than somewhere else. It is going to be harder to sell out a specific space on a Friday rather than a Saturday whenever everybody's off work and able to go, especially on the West Coast whenever that Friday time slot is basically going to be at like 1 p.m. So I'm not expecting the theater to be all that full for the losers finals, but for Saturday, I expect it to be pretty big, especially given that we are no longer doing this in a stadium. The YouTube Theater in LA is a magnificent space. It is an amphitheater style that, as you can see here, like it's more akin to what we saw at like MSI and some of the other events that we've seen in the past, including 2018's finals in Miami, and notably 2022's finals out in Houston. When you look back at the setup, you see this exact style, but kind of put into a stadium. We were clearly trying to shift towards this, despite obviously still wanting to be in these bigger stadiums, when the truth is, like, we weren't big enough to fill up these massive arenas. And that's perfectly fine that we downsized to something that is more appropriate to where we're at, which is why 5,000 seats available in this is going to be incredible. But anyways, back to the announcement. The LCS is the premier North American professional league for the globally renowned esports title League of Legends. Got it, all that. The LCS is supported by AT&T, MasterCard, Kia, Samsung. Okay, that's all the partners. The YouTube Theater, located in the Hollywood Park of Inglewood, California, is the state-of-the-art indoor venue covering 3 stories and 227,000 square feet, with a seating capacity of about 5,000 for this event. So the seating capacity for the entire thing, just to double check. Okay, it's about 6,000. So they're taking away like 5,000 seats, or not 5,000, 500 seats from the venue to make sure that they deliver the best spectacle possible. But on top of that, it just like, this is great. This is where I want to see the LCS. I don't want to see us in 20,000 seat arenas anymore. I want to see us in these types of venues because 5,000 people cheering and screaming in this is going to be loud and a whole different atmosphere than what we've seen in the past. Now, tickets will go available on sale with MasterCard for a 24-hour pre-sale on Thursday, June 27th. So that is by the time you're seeing this video, that is basically a week and 2 days. And then general tickets will be available on Friday, June 28th. Now, I'm curious to see what ticket prices look like for this. We don't know yet, and we won't know until that pre-sale goes live. But last year, tickets, I think, were going for upwards of like $120, like $120 to $150 for both days of finals, which really, as long as people are activating and their sponsors and stuff going on, it's honestly worth the money, in my opinion. I know some people might say it's a little bit expensive, but I think for a 5,000 seat arena, if prices are right around that point, that's very reasonable. Now, in the case that you're on the East Coast, and I know what you're thinking, damn, another one in LA, really? Like, I get it. But I will say we are going to be having a watch party here in New York City at Legends NYC. If you didn't see our video from spring or what we did there, we had close to 100 people show up, and it was a fantastic environment. We were hosting it there again. I'm trying to see if I can get a little bit larger space, but it should be a blast and should be a ton of fun. So if you're on the East Coast at all and you want to watch the LCS Finals, at a place with a bunch of people there that is more akin to finals, but obviously just more of like a watch party, like, I'm telling you, please come by. It is amazing. Details are in the Eventbrite in the description of this video down below. Be sure to check it out. But there's one other thing I want to touch on. When you look at a map of the US, I want to draw out where LCS Finals has been historically since franchising began in 2018 and show you what areas truly deserve a little bit more attention here and where I think finals should be next year. Because one of the things I do want to see from Riot going forward is I want to see more organization on when these get announced. It's not like, as happy as I am that we are not in the LCS studio, it's not great that we're only finding out about tickets, information, travel, and everything for this about 2 months ahead of time. Worlds, back in 2018, announced their next 4 but locations that they're going to be at so that people could plan their trips around it. So I want to see Riot plan ahead for this exact type of thing next year. I want to know where finals is going to be at next year, the various different events, especially with the ecosystem changing. It is going to be really important to let people know as far ahead in advance as you possibly can so that people can show up. So 2024 is being hosted in Southern California and Los Angeles. 2023, we saw 2 different events. We saw one in the northeast sector of the US up here in Jersey, right next to New York City. And then we also saw it down in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we've covered 2 spots on the East Coast, which is good. So then we go back to 2022. 2022 hit 2 major areas. First and foremost, we had spring finals down in Houston, Texas, which I'm not sure where Houston's at on this map actually, so I'm just going to assume it's there. And then we saw finals in Chicago. With Chicago, for those that don't know, is in Illinois, right along the water, I think. I'm not great with my geography, I'm sorry. So you did hit a little bit of the Midwest. We go back to 2021, unfortunately no events there. COVID pretty much shut everything down. Same thing for 2020. 2019, Detroit, Michigan, okay? Summer finals was a blast. That was one of the few, actually, I think that was my first LCS. Yeah, that was my first LCS finals that I was ever at. It was phenomenal. It was a good time. 2019 spring was actually in St. Louis, Missouri, which I have no clue. I'm assuming that's like more towards the middle here. So we actually had kind of like a Midwest special back in 2019. St. Louis, I don't remember how well that event was perceived from people, but I know the Detroit finals was obviously like a blast. 2018, we had 2 of them. Spring finals was actually down in Miami, Florida. So we touched all the way at the bottom of this map here. And then 2018 summer, I believe, was in Oakland, California, which is like towards the top up here, I think. Pardon me, West Coast people, I don't fully know everything. Now, the reason why I wanted to paint this picture and show these is because there's 3 clear areas where I think that where we need to kind of direct strategy going forward. First and foremost, people are going to call attention to the fact that there's little to no events over here on the West Coast. And I agree the Pacific Northwest probably deserves something, whether it's Seattle or like anywhere in Oregon or Washington, really. Because for those of us on the East Coast, imagine having an event here in New York and having to go down to Florida. While it's accessible, it still is a long ways away. You'd like to see something up closer to you. So sometime in the future, I would like to see us try and hit this Northwest corridor. The other obvious glaring one from this is the clear lack of Canada, which has been screwed over since COVID. They didn't even get the World Semifinals, which they were supposed to get, which happened down in Georgia. Which actually, speaking of that, let me add Worlds locations. We'll make this blue. Worlds was in 3 different places. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. It was in New York City. And it was out in San Francisco, out in the Bay Area. So Canada has kind of gotten screwed over. And honestly, if they don't give MSI to Canada in 2024, or 2025, sorry, I'd be really shocked. But assuming they don't, then they deserve like our spring finals, especially, well, the format's going to be changing. We technically now have 3 finals, or like 1 final, but then like 2 smaller events. Canada deserves that one of those spots, whether it's the championship at the end of the year, like something. They deserve it in 2025 without question, hands down. But then you look at other areas that we just simply haven't touched. Like there's a large market here in Tennessee in the Bible Belt that we could go to. I know people are going to be a little bit iffy on Raleigh, but you're telling me a Nashville final wouldn't be great? Nah, that'd be cool. Let me do my bright yellow. Should be, or actually we'll do black. So the first one, obviously, I think Nashville, Tennessee deserves one at this point. I mean, Canada, like that's, what else do you even say about Canada at this point? They deserve one more than anything else. Pacific Northwest. I think Minnesota actually has done, believe it or not, a really good job of developing their esports scene, especially with the Minnesota Rocker. Even if that's just in Call of Duty, I do think there's like a dedicated enough audience that maybe you do want to like the smaller finals, whether it's like spring or winter or whatever like that first split is. You do something a little bit smaller up in Minnesota where, you know, maybe you can get a discounted price because it's a little bit colder. I think that'd be good. But the truth is you really need to unlock this entire East Coast. In this section over here, even though New York City got these, you have Boston up here. You have the Washington, D.C. area that Baltimore is fairly close to that you have accessibility to. And then obviously New York City. I mean, we'll probably we'll keep getting international events to the point where you can go to like the areas around it, and I don't think like people would be upset. Even if I do want to see a consistent New York City spot on the LCS tour, like one spot each, like say every other year, we get one, and every other year, maybe California gets one. So I actually did this exercise on stream last week, and this is the chart that we came up with. I mean, tell me this rotation would not be really cool to see. You have California and New York City every other year because we're the two largest metropolitan areas in the United States. You will hit the most amount of people by making sure that one of us two gets something each and every other year. Beyond that, Toronto, Dallas, Vancouver, DC, like I've given two separate events here to Canada, noting the trend of where MSI and World should be in the US. And I've planned these events out really far in advance. You don't have to go beyond like these major cities, but you just have to make sure that you are consistently hitting a rotation here to get the product in the most amount of fans' hands possible. That's where I think we would succeed in the LCS long term. In addition to obviously just having consistent events and watch parties and everything else. So that's it. I've done enough rambling. I've proven my point. Be sure to check out the LCS finals tickets when they go live next week. I cannot wait to see what the event looks like in the YouTube theater. Most importantly, I cannot wait to see all of you that come to the New York City watch parties, both during the regular season, the playoffs, and finals, which will be at Legends NYC. Again, Eventbrite in the description down below. That's it for me. I'll see y'all later. Be sure to try and attend a live league event if you can this year, or a live watch party. There's more than you think, and they're in your areas. See you around.